Hi, welcome to another episode of the Ambient Mellotron here on the Ambient iPad. Let's make some music. Rock guitar is the instrument I'm going to use today, and it comes from the Mellotron M4000D sound set. The signal chain is the Mellotron M4000D's direct outputs into a Focusrite Scarlett 18i8 interface, which communicates back and forth with the iPad Pro through a USB-C hub, which also lets me power the iPad at the same time. We're using apeMatrix. apeMatrix has been cooperating recently with screen recording, which is great because it lets me turn effects on and off while I'm recording, which I can't do in GarageBand. So, although I have both direct outputs connected to the Scarlett, we're only going to use USB 1 today. And with the direct outputs as opposed to the master analog mono output, volume and tone are already wide open, so the knobs do nothing, and that's fine. So there are a number of guitars on the Mellotron, and they sound interesting, to say the least. There's really a lot of different sounds, instruments on the Mellotron that they're pretty cool in isolation, but it's hard to find things to do with them. In those cases, just add a bunch of effects and you can do some cool ambient things. That's what we're going to do today with the rock guitar from the M4000D. So the first thing I'm going to do is just add a compression just so I can start sampling some of the sounds. I want to go through, there's like 3 or 4 on the Mellotron. I'll sample all those for everyone. Let's just use Rough Rider from Audio Damage, just a very straightforward compressor. And there's a good preset here called Nice Start, which is essentially the settings that I would use. The ratio's 3:1. I'm usually more of a 2:1 person, particularly on the bass. But because the Mellotron does have a lot of peaks and valleys in the volume, this is good to even it out. So let's connect that, and this is what rock guitar sounds like. So to me, this sounds like a Telecaster through a Vox amp, which would fit the time period of the M4000D. And it's not completely clean, it's definitely pushing the amp, it's getting a little crunchy. Then when you get down to the D here, you get palm mute sounds. So, to me, that's a very 60s sound. David Gilmour used this sound a lot in the early days of his career with Pink Floyd. I think of the '68 album More, and beyond that. Also, this sound reminds me totally of the music that used to be part of the British TV show The Prisoner. They always used a guitar. Sounded really, really like that. I'm assuming it was a guitar and not the Mellotron. All right. Some of the other guitar sounds on the Mellotron, if we go back to the Mark I, there's an acoustic nylon guitar. I would say that sounds kind of like an acoustic nylon guitar, but it really doesn't matter what I say because it was actually a recording of a nylon guitar. So with the Mellotron, the individual tapes, each note, they were a recording of somebody playing that instrument. And you can hear. Now that's probably more the master tapes. It's just a little, that's the beauty of the Mellotron. And then in the M4000D set, besides the rock guitar, there's also an acoustic steel string. I'm going to be completely honest, that is really, really compressed, and it could, I know they're saying it's a steel guitar, steel string, but to me, it sounds like a nylon guitar still. They just EQ'd differently and a lot of compression. And I found that some of the descriptive titles for the instrument is a little off, and they seem to have reused the tape. So for instance, the bass flute which I've done jams with, sounds very, very similar to the Mark II flute, and the bass flute is on the M400. There's a little bit of EQ difference, but it does not sound like a bass flute to me. It doesn't go as low. When you compare the notes between the flute and the bass flute, they sound very, very similar for the same notes. I'm hearing the same thing here. Okay, after that little detour into the guitar sounds, there is actually a steel string guitar sound on the Chamberlin, but let's move on with rock guitar. All right, so let's start adding some more effects. I want to use crystals with this, and I do actually have a setting. I have my own patch for ambient stuff, so this is what that sounds like. So I like using the low, adding those low notes with crystals, as opposed to the classic crystal sound, where you get the high organy crystal shimmer sound. Nice too, although I pretty much overused, which is the reason why I created a patch like this, which just sounds like it's adding kind of a synth on the bottom. All right, so we'll use that. We'll figure out how to use that within the jam. I'm going to turn that off. Definitely want a delay with the guitar and a tape delay, Imaginando K7D. I do have other tape delays, but I just like the Imaginando version the best, despite the fact it still doesn't let me save my presets anymore, but that's okay. I've used this enough that I can start with the initialize sound. I know I want to jack up the dry wet. Let's connect this and hear what we got. Maybe a little too much on the feedback, but I do like that sound. Very mono though. So right now we have just the compression and the delay. Let's add in crystals to hear what that sounds like. Let me just lower the feedback slightly. Gets a little jumpy here. So crystals is in stereo, the tape delay is not. All right, that'll work, maybe a little more. Okay, I want to add a little bit of chorus just to open up the sound a little, particularly for the delay, since that's noticeably in mono. Let's use the FAC Chorus. I'm thinking more from a guitar perspective and guitar pedals right now. These are just all parallel effects. We'll route some of them together like a guitar pedal. All right, let's turn off everything but the compression and chorus. Just a little touch there. It's real thick. I like the classic chorus. Just a little more subtle. And I'm going to route the delay through there. We have to turn that on. Get the direct sound out of there. So when you're working with audio along the top with apeMatrix, you're essentially turning the effects on and off by the output here, and over on the side, that's the direct sound. So right now, the delay is going through the chorus. So if I turn off the delay, no more delay, turn it back on. Now I can also add in some of just delay directly to the output, so parallel processing, which is essentially, we'll do that with the compression too. So you get a big volume boost. Turn that off, and the volume boost is from the compression. I don't think I need that way. I'm just going to keep that separate. I'm not really sure yet. Yeah, you know, I'm definitely going to go with crystals out that way. Yeah, okay. Let's turn off the direct delay sound too. Okay, I'm going to stick with that. It just pushes the crystals and the delay a little more in the background. And I also want to use some reverbs, one for special effects and one just for an overall reverb. So for the special effects, Velvet Machine is perfect for this. Get into Velvet Machine. And let's try sparse swell. What is this? Yeah, the wave looks good there. All right, let me connect that. Turn off crystals. Everything else I'll leave on. It takes a little bit for this to start going because you got that long ramp up time. Here it comes. Let go, it's still there. So the more notes you do, the more dense it gets. It's a little overpowering, so let's put the mix down to about 50. Try that. Yeah, that's nice. All right, the last thing we're going to do goes on forever. Actually, let's try it with crystals. Can you hear the delay in the background? One thing I like about this setup that I got going here is that the effects are coming in at different times. And then obviously Velvet Machine is hanging on. But I do this. The delay lingers. Crystals comes in a few, you know, right after I hit the note. And then Velvet Machine up at the end. All right. And for an overall reverb, I'm going to use Blackhole. Let's use a big reverb. One of the things I like about apeMatrix is that I can turn effects on and off. So we'll turn crystals on and off, we'll turn Velvet Machine on and off at different points within the improv. It's kind of big, and I do want a big reverb. So I do have a preset here that'll give me that big reverb. Yeah, I like that. Tails not too long. So we have everything going through the chorus. Let's send the chorus through the reverb and see what that does. It opens everything up a little. Here's not sending everything through the reverb. It's subtle, but I can hear it through headphones. Let's add everything back in. Let's close this up so I can see the routing. Let's make it really dense. bring some of these things in parallel too. So I think I'll still have some of the direct delay sound going as well, because when you get Crystals and Velvet Machine going, the delay kind of gets lost. Here comes Velvet Machine. That's our atmosphere, our ambient soundscape setup. Let me just do a once-over, check all the settings and the routings, and we'll do an improv. Once you get beyond the classic sounds that everybody associates with the Mellotron, strings, flute, choirs, some brass, there's still a lot of other instruments to explore. Now, many of them, they sound great in isolation, but it's really tough to figure out how to use them within a piece. And I have used a bunch of those, whether it's the marimba and not the straight marimba, it's doing a little bit of a trill, some of the guitars that I played. But in those cases, I just add a bunch of effects to it, and it works really well for an ambient soundscape. I mean, the Mellotron was originally created for people to use at home as an alternative to those huge home organs where they had little buttons and switches that for real instruments, but it was still essentially an organ. This was meant to be an evolution of that, so you could sit at home and play strings and brass and choir. And again, the classic sounds, there's a lot you can do with them, but that's only a fraction of the Mellotron M4000D's sounds. So I am kind of making it a mission just to go through all the different types of sounds and see what I can do with them. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and good luck with your own music.